What's up, Lowlives? It's your boy Rhino back with another amazing episode of the Low Life podcast. How to Build a Chopper, Part 3, Paint, featuring my boy, Danny Panhead
Oi, oi. How we
at No
doing?
Luck
Low life.
Paintworks. El Dano. He goes a man by many names, but we all know him as the Paint King of the
No,
Northeast.
no. Just a retard in a shed. That's all.
Is you got that's more than a shed. That's a garage with a shed
Yeah,
attached.
fair enough.
Yeah.
That's true. But yeah,
The shed is the paint booth, though.
we're gonna talk about paint today. I'm really excited. I've been wanting to do this one for a while, and I've had quite a few people hit me up recently that are idle hands builders or otherwise that are getting close to the paint process. So it's a kind of a well-timed thing. So we'll get into it here pretty much right off the rip. I think we're going to start with, sorry, I'm trying to, well, you're going to read off the question. So I don't
Yeah, I'll
even,
read what we did is, this might be a two-parter. I don't know. It paint, in my opinion, I believe that paint is like 50% of a build. It's one of the hardest things to actually accomplish and do really well. I think it's one of the most valuable skill sets you have, and that's why award-winning bikes go out to paint, right? Because you can fab stuff and you be good with engines and stuff, but you can't paint. You know what I mean? To me, I think it's like 50% of the build. And if you can paint your own bike, then you're doing 100% of the build. You know, I would say maybe not 50, maybe 45. Upholstery is like 10. You know what I mean? The stuff that's really hard to learn if you're like a fucking Neanderthal and all you can do is like bang fucking metal together, then I guess this is like the sweet science, right? This is the butterfly, the fabrication's the bee. So if you can do paint, if you can do upholstery, if you can do that shit, you're the whole package. So I think paint is so important. And that's why I'm a big proponent of painting your own shit, because I've done it. It's fucking hard, dude. It's fucking hard to do right. It's really
yeah,
frustrating. It's really hard. But if you can unlock that skill set, dude, you can take a piece of shit and paint it and bring it from here to like way the fuck up here. You
for
can
sure.
make or break a build with a fucking paint job, dude.
Yeah, paint does a lot. And yeah, I
All
just
right.
want to focus all of this at first before we go any further with, I don't know it all. I'm self-taught up until very recently. Um, I paint in a literal garage in New England, usually in the winter. So this is just shit that I have done that works for me. This is how I've kind of tuned my process or whatever. There are a million different ways to do this shit. There's a million different ways to do all of the things that we're going to cover. And everybody who does this will tell you that their way is the best. I'm not saying any of that. This is just how I do it. So if there are other ways to do it and that's the hill you want to die on, right on. But we're going to move on.
Yeah. So we're gonna start with the Q&A. So we put up a post. We got people coming in, joining our live. We're gonna take those questions. If you have questions, pop them in the chat. Uh, I'm fucking not a painter, so I'm not. I think this is gonna be a Danny heavy episode. So I'm just gonna fucking try to help out with fielding the questions here. So let's just dive right into it. We're not gonna fucking make you wait and listen to us talk about how cool the Idle Hand show is or any of the new developments. You'll get that in later episodes. Now we're gonna dive into the questions from you, the viewer. First up, we got Papal Mouse Cowboy. Talk about relic paint jobs. How do you get a nice crackle effect? And where should that step go when painting flames and an image transfer?
Fucking right off the rip. All right. Let's just fucking rip this Band-Aid off here, right? Couple episodes ago, if you're a listener of ours, we talked about doing your own research before you go to the person who knows how to do the thing, right? So that's what I did. I wanted to learn how to do that. I know one way how to do a crackle paint job, so to speak, a crackle finish. Otherwise, I don't do relic shit. I've never taken a blowtorch to a tank. I've never thrown rocks at a gas tank. I've never any of that. I don't know. That's not my shit. Out of respect for myself and all of the time and effort and energy I put into it, I'm not just going to blab how I do it. I will give you a tip. The answers you are seeking are in instrument restoration. And there are plenty of things on the internet after a very quick
Breadcrumb,
Google search,
fellas.
your own,
Just a little breadcrumb.
that will it'll lead you to where you need to go. From there, that's all I know. And if you are in the process of doing it yourself or you have tried to do it and have been unsuccessful or whatever, I'm happy to help people. But I'm not, out of respect for all of the other painters out there, I'm not going to blab it here on this podcast.
It's the
So
most coveted paint job
next.
among chopper enthusiasts, the, relic paint jobs. But that was a hot tip. Nice little breadcrumb. Go numble that breadcrumb up, and, you got a journey ahead of you, buddy. That'll be great. Um, Next up, we got Doom Cult, favorite brands, taping techniques, and recommended flash times across various layers.
All right, right on. So that's stuff that we're definitely gonna be covering in like the spiel. For brands, I'm not like a super brand whore. I will definitely like when we get to primer and sandpaper and all that stuff. Honestly, a lot of that shit that I use for no luck is Amazon and whatever else. Honest to God, I did Clay's entire bike with Amazon stuff. Um, and the paint he provided from Roth, for
Oh,
the record.
this is a two-part question. It rolls into the first one, so might as well just address it. He also says, "Why does every painter who does the crackle patina technique gatekeep that shit like it's hoard of gold?"
You purposely ask these two right off the rip.
No, they
Uh,
just happen to be the first two.
it's not like a hoard of gold. It's like I don't. Nobody showed me how to do it. No one was like, "Hey, man, this is this secret to how you do it." You know what I mean? It was. There are people that I was talking to. We were all doing our own R&D on it, trying to figure out how to do it, and trying a bunch of different shit. And not for nothing, this shit is expensive. This shit is time consuming. It's your R&D as a painter is very, very inefficient, and it costs a lot of fucking money. So just like, I don't know, there's plenty of other like trade secret things out there. The crackle paint job lately has been the boom, and I get that. And like I said, I'm not trying to gatekeep it. I'm just not going to give it away. And that's even to my closest friends and shit. That's, you got to do
Although
some of
you
your
did
own
give
legwork.
I do know how to do it,
Yeah,
and
he knows how to
I
do it.
am for sale, guys. I'm
I'm
just kidding.
I'm I will get you there is what I'm saying. I will get you there. If you have questions, come to me with your questions on the side. I'm not just going to divulge all that shit right here on the internet.
Yeah. So, and by the way, there's like probably 50 different ways to get the same result. You know what I mean? I've seen all different ways. It depends on what exactly you want it to look like, too.
Yeah. No, that's the other thing too, is like I know a way to do it. I also know that there are dudes doing it not the way I do it. I don't know how they're doing it, but I know that it's not the same way that I'm doing it. So I don't even know if I'm doing it the right way. So again, that's not something that I've only done that twice ever. I've only done that effect 2 times ever. That was on the paint job that we did for the Sportster that Rhino built, and on Boot Boy. And on Boot Boy, you can barely fucking tell I didn't even do it all that.
Yeah.
So
If you guys want to buy the
I'm not even sure that
Sportster,
I'm doing it right. So
if
I'm
you
not
guys
going to
want to
give you.
buy the Sportster off me and Dan, then maybe we'll give you some more hints, and you can reverse engineer it from there. The crackle came out
Yeah,
great.
sniff it.
Revenant's in the comments section. He said he'll spill rattle can crackle secrets. Revenant chop. Um, Next up we got
Yep.
flaked paint and design. Gordon, why should you understand the chemical properties of the reducers and hardeners, and what's a good all around?
You should understand what you're using in general. You have to understand these are literally, I know Gordon understands because he's a painter, but to everybody else, this is literally chemistry. This is benchtop chemistry. You're dealing with chemicals that don't play well with each other if you get them wrong. If you get them in the wrong ratio, if any of that stuff. That's really the most precise thing. You have to get your chemicals right. Reducer, we're going to get into this at some point, but reducers have different speeds, right? Different speeds, different temperature ranges, depending on how the humidity and the temperature is, where you're spraying, where you're going to be spraying, depending on a bunch of other different things too. But the reducer is what dilutes your paint. You mix your base coat in with your reducer and stuff like that. There are paints that are activated or catalyzed or 2K or whatever. Anything you see with 2K means it has a hardener, a catalyst, an activator, something along those lines. If your shit does not have a hardener, a catalyst, or an activator, it is not UV resistant, is not solvent resistant. Regular base coat will wipe off with lacquer thinner. Catalyzed base coat will not, et cetera, et cetera. Again, we'll kind of go into that. But moreover to the answer, I would say it's very important to understand your chemicals in general of everything you're using. You need to look up the technical data sheet or the P sheet, the TDS sheet for each of those chemicals. And when I say each of the chemicals, I literally mean your base coat and your reducer. You know what I'm saying? Like they go together. You need to know what goes together and what doesn't. And the manufacturers make it very, very, very clear. All your recoat times, all that stuff, it's all on your TDS, your technical data sheet. So if you have any questions per your chemicals, that's where you go to find those.
Yep. I'll actually take the next one. Andy Man Word, what's the best way to get a respectable result using rattle cans?
Mm.
All right. I'm the rattle can man. Okay. Um, I think I've achieved a respectable paint job with rattle cans. All right. Um, here's the thing. Keep it simple, not too many colors. Okay. You can get some pretty cool. I'm a big fan of the Roth flake cans. You can get they sell kits to do the satin, like they take the guessing out of it and they come you buy the kit and it comes with the 2K. So they'll tell you just don't try to get too fancy with it. I would say stay away from if you want a respectable one, do one of the get like a kit from like Roth, because you're going to be able to do the pearl, they have the flake, they have that stuff. You're going to die doing that with Rust-Oleum. And from experience, some of those Rust-Oleum products don't play well together. I've had reactions and weird shit, okay? They're just mass producing that stuff. So, Roth, buy a kit, you're going to get you can tell they'll show you exactly what it's going to look like with the different cans layered on top of each other with the different and then just mix and match those. Keep it simple, get good with tape, if you want some flames and shit, cuz taping is actually really hard. I'm sure we'll get into that. Really
Mm-hmm.
tedious. But just you would just how you usually would do it, but just get some better paint and then seal it. Here's my one tip that I learned from Dan that really saved me a lot of time is you're going to have to spend a lot in the clear coat department if you're doing rattle can. You're going to spend a lot on clear coat because those things are fucking over $30 a can for the 2K. And you have on a gas tank, if you're not doing 2K, you're fucking stupid because you're going to spill gas on that bitch and it's going to run. It's going to ruin your paint job. So, in between everything that you did right, seal it in with clear coat, right? So if you lay down some sick flames and they're looking good, and then you're going to go in and do some other shit, seal that shit in with the clear coat, and that protects that layer. So when you fuck up the next layer, you just sanding down to the clear coat. You're not sanding down the stuff that already worked. So just invest in. You can go on Amazon and they sell them like cases, like 6-pack. You know what I mean? And don't be skimpy with the 2K, because that's going to save you time because you are going to fuck up and you are going to have to sand stuff down. Um, but just that's the only way to achieve it is use some decent spray paint and seal in your shit so you don't have to go back too many steps. Anything to add to that, Dano?
That's a hot tip. Yeah, locking down. We'll go over lockdown clear and stuff like that. But that's a hot tip. Yeah, it's a reset button. Clear coat. That's how it was explained to me when I first
Yeah.
started doing clear coats. Your reset.
Got a question from Revenant here in the chat. Clearing over polished steel with a solvent resistant clear rattle can Uh, in my experience, not a good idea. He said it just flaked off. I've had the same experience because it's smooth when you polish stuff. It has nothing to grip to. So you put the clear coat on, it looks good until you touch it, and then it's just shifting around on an ultra smooth surface. But um clearing polished steel, one thing I will say about that is if you polish that good enough, like it holds up pretty good, and corrosion inhibitors like CRC36 will protect that shit pretty fucking good. And here's another one from my vapor honing days. Um, Shark hide.
Mhm.
It's a mix between like a top coat, like a paint, and then like a deep penetrating solvent. And they use it in the marine industry for like sides of boats and stuff. And that's what I would use. You can brush it on, or they have spray cans, but shark hide, it's fucking expensive too. But if you're doing a sissy bar, you could do the whole sissy bar and have plenty left over. And it works really good for steel. It's in between. It's for boats, for fuck's sake, that are in the water all the time. So
Right. No, I've seen that stuff. I saw you use it on some stuff. I think you did like my carb or something in it at one point. Like that shit's really cool. It's a nice little gloss on it and stuff. Yeah, as far as I mean, there are paint jobs out there where I know George Quirk did one, and I can't attest to how he did it, but he did a paint job with some purple flames over a chrome tank. And to be God's honest with you, I don't know how, other than just doing it and knowing that the paint could eventually come off. I don't know, maybe yeah, I don't know. As far as I've always been told, paint doesn't stick to a polished surface. So I don't
hold
know. Of
on, we got Mr. SOS, all caps. He's pissed in the chat, guys.
course he is.
Tamco has resins that let you clear on bare metal, but not rattle can. Need chemical adhesion. Use
Yeah,
adhesion promoter.
there you go.
There you go. Finally, something useful
Thanks,
coming out of
Chris.
Canada. What the fuck? All right. Next up, we got Restrepo John. If I wanted to do a layered paint job, what would the process be? And also, if I had an industrial paint curing oven at my disposal, would that affect the process? Do you want to? Is that part of your spiel we want to get into, or you want to field that now?
The first part is the second part, the oven part. I've never messed with an oven. I've only had like I have an infrared heater in my paint booth, specifically aimed at the things that I just painted, to keep those warm because curing stops after 50 degrees. But as far as an oven, like a lot of the technical data sheets will actually say bake time and all that other shit. So
No
that's
shit.
definitely a thing. Yeah, for sure. Bake is huge in like the collision industry because they're just trying to bang shit out and get it out the door and on to the next one. So yeah, a lot of high end paint booths can bake up to like 200 degrees or something crazy. Um, so yeah, definitely just look at your product data sheet. Um, and then the first part, the layered paint job. So by that, I assume we're talking about like you want flames on something, or do you want to put effects on top of other stuff? We're absolutely going to go through that. So this is just a preface. This is how I'm going to run my spiel part of this. We're all going to do a paint job together. We're going to paint a black tank with red flames with a gold pinstripe and an image transfer. Okay. So we're going to talk through that entire process, right? From prepping complete bare metal all the way up to a completed paint job, the way that I would do it, the school of no luck, if you will.
Sick.
Um, so we're going to get into that for sure. We're going to be doing layered. I assume if that's what you mean, John, about the layered paint jobs. If not, I'm sorry. Just let me know.
That sounds I think that's what he means by that.
I think so too. Yeah.
Um. All right, we got Zenith Motoco. Thoughts on powder coat primer? Pros, cons. What application makes sense for motorcycles?
So I have painted over the top of powder coat once. I don't know much about how powder coat and shit are supposed to do, but again, like Chris is saying, adhesion promoter is your friend when you're trying to get two things to stick that usually aren't supposed to stick. But as far as primer, truthfully, if you're asking my honest opinion, I think frames should be powder coated almost 100% of the time. Obviously, if you're doing some custom color or whatever, um, powder coat's just stronger. It just is. And you send it to a guy, you pick out your fancy color or whatever, go from there. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the chat and talking
Yeah,
sick.
Gordon saying powder coat is the best sealer in the game. Scuff and shoot. I mean, you gotta it's really like, here's the thing is paint, when you spray it on, really thin. Powder coat's pretty thick
Yeah,
comparatively,
very thick. Yeah,
and it's baked on, it's cured, so you're not gonna get, like, reactions possibly, like, through the metal or something, you
right.
know?
I just don't to answer your question in a short way. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know the chemical makeup of like powder coat primer. I've never painted over powder coat primer. So I truthfully I don't have the answer to that one. I will look it up, and if one of these guys can't answer it, I'll get back to you.
Yeah. Gordon likes it. I keep on forgetting he's a painter. Even every time I look at his name, Flake Paint and Design, the first thing that comes to my mind is just Gordon. So I forget that he's a painter too.
Yeah, especially with the fabrication and stuff that he's always
Yeah,
posted.
yeah,
But yeah, he painted alimony. He painted Steel City's last bike.
yeah, dude. What the fuck?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um. All right. So Ian Chisholm, and this might be part of the base game that Dan's going to go through. Do you have paint in order of primer, flake, base coat, reducer, clear? How do you control making a color darker and lighter? Is primer color flake color? How many coats on the base and all of the above? I figure we'll probably go through that when we do the paint job.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we'll go right through the process, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
we'll just say,
Restrepo John, colors to work with, colors to avoid.
yeah, I do whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like some are more difficult to make glossy. Black's the most difficult to make nice and glossy and perfect and everything because it reflects, but fuck that. Don't base your paint job on how hard it is. Just do it. If you're gonna do it, do it. You know what I mean? Um, once you understand this stuff and like how it kind of works, and you get like an actual like a framework of like, I don't fuck with this much time. I'm doing these things in this step, and you don't deviate from that. It's not that hard. It's really not. It's an application process, realistically. So I wouldn't let your color be what holds you back from doing anything. Do the color you want.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess in the same vein here, we got two petty capo saying, not really a question how to paint a chopper, but what's the worst color to paint
Like the
one,
ugliest. Yeah.
like the ugliest?
Yeah. I don't know, man. There's a spot for every color. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
The first thing comes to mind is the flat, the matte black. But then I'm like, I've seen some cool matte black ones too.
for sure. Matte black, the rattle can industry fucked matte black as a color. But you got like hot rod black and all that stuff. That's the coolest shit
The
when it's really
satin, dude, I'm like a sucker for satin, dude.
yep, satin matte. We'll cover stuff like that too. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's yeah, rattle can matte black absolutely is the objective answer to that question because there just isn't a way to make that look really good in my opinion. It is what it is. It just always looks like it's done with a rattle can. You know what I mean? And that doesn't scream quality for me. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
I
Paint whatever you want, man.
for whatever
No,
reason, to me, and I know I'm gonna get some shit for this, but I don't like pink bikes. I don't like pink choppers, dude.
I don't like
I don't
white
know.
bikes. I don't
I don't
like
like white bikes.
all white frame bikes mainly. I feel like yours has flake and stuff in there before you go jumping through the screen. I know you have a white bike, but like an
The first thing
all
that I thought was, "Dan, I have a white bike. You don't
no,
like me?"
mainly like a stock bike or like a bigger bike, whatever. If it's all white, it reminds me of like the white Oakley glasses kind of guy. You know what I mean? Puka shell, all that kind of just. I don't know. It gives me that kind of vibe.
That's how
So
I'm
it's
turning it up this summer, Dan. I'm gonna have the
would
fucking puka shells, the white
off the
Oakleys on my
tip,
white bike. I'm repainting the frame.
mayor of Chopper Town, baby.
I like a white chopper because it gets really dirty, you know,
For sure. Yeah. But
naturally.
yeah, like a all white, like lots of plastic spike and white frame and all that stuff. It just feels very like plastic. But yeah, Chris just said white bikes are the Guy Fieri of choppers, and so is Rhino, apparently.
Welcome to Flavortown, guys.
Well,
That's why I'm going next year's at Halloween. I got to be Guy Fieri once.
good idea. You should grow your hair out.
It is
Sorry.
getting it is getting nasty in here, guys. All right, we got one-way cycles, air compressor size, and how do you dry your air?
Air compressor size is, I think that's more relative than people think. I started out with a 3 pound or whatever the fucking pancake compressor, 3 gallon. I currently have a 60 gallon. It's nothing special. It's, yeah, it does the job. I had a Craftsman that shit the bed on me that was a 60 gallon. And I also have a Kodiak. It's a 34 gallon. It's more like a little portable jobby. I painted Clay's bike with that 34 gallon. I painted the Tributan helmet, a bunch of other shit with that. It's the more air you have, the more volume of air you have, the more square cubic feet per meter or whatever CFM. The more of that you have, the better. You have more air. It atomizes better. It doesn't run out. Your spray consistency stays the same throughout the entire time when you're spraying it. But here's the deal. A lot of people might get pissed off about this. When you're spraying something the size of a helmet, you don't need a lot of air to cover that much surface area. So you let your shit air up and then you immediately go in there and spray your base coat on. You're not just going and you're spraying it like we're using HVLP, high volume, low pressure guns. The pressure is turned way down on these things. Some of them are at like fucking 10, 11 PSI at the gun. So you're not just like dumping a bunch of air out. If you just have your shit ready to go and you don't have any air leaks or whatever, and Teflon tape on your regulator, you can get that shit done and it's fine. It's not a big deal.
It's just a matter of the duty cycle on the compressor, right? Because it's high velocity, low pressure, so you don't need a ton of CFM. It's not like a blast cabin or something where that's
Right.
what you need is
Exactly.
tons of CFM.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Uh,
Oh, sorry. You guys are talking. I'm going to turn the
but
chat
how
off.
to dry your air?
I got to turn the chat off. Yeah. So air compressor, I don't think is as big a deal as people make it out to be. Again, if this is, you're just painting your idle hands build and you don't intend to paint again, just get a fucking pancake compressor. It's not that big a deal. Frames, it gets a little wonky sometimes. When I used a real small compressor for that, that gets a little tough. You're going to get some overspray, just kind of inherently, it is what it is. But again, just prior planning prevents piss poor performance when it comes to paint. Like for real, you got to think all this shit through. You got to be ready, have your stuff set up so that if you only have this much air and this much time, whatever, you got to know what to do with it. So you can make it work.
How you dry in the air?
I dry the air with, I have 100 feet of air line between my compressor outlet and where I plug into the gun. I have, as the air comes out of the compressor and into the 100 feet of airline, I have a very cheapo DeWalt dryer system. They're like $160, I think, something like that. It's got a little water trap in it. It's got the silicon desiccant
I
beads,
can.
and I get a 5 gallon jug of the desiccant beads and just fill those up whenever they turn color.
Are
And
you
then,
supposed to change those?
yeah, when they turn color, you're supposed to
I've
change
never
them up.
changed mine.
Yeah, you can get a 5 gallon, whatever, or 2 gallon jug of them for very cheap. Yeah, and they start blue and they end up pink or clear when they're fucked. So yeah, I have the air dryer system and then 100 feet of airline that I have kind of snaked up and down more or less the wall so that there's water traps at the bottom of them and yada yada. Make sure I air out my compressor every time I turn it on at the end of the day. And then in my gun, when I plug in my paint gun, I have a air dryer, a little fisheye filter in line with the airline, and then my regulator, which also has a little air filter in it, and then my paint gun. So I'm dual filtered at the airline at the end of the airline itself. Knock on wood, I have never had water related issues in my paint booth, in my setup. And I've painted in the middle of summer, which is 70% humidity and 99 degrees some days. And I've painted in the middle of New England winter where it's absolutely too cold to paint outside. And I've never had water issues. I think if you just keep just keep the thing empty at the end of the night and don't let that stuff build up. And I have an oilless compressor too that helps, so I don't really get oil through the lines. Um, but yeah, I've never really had that issue. I just have the 100 feet of airline to kind of trap water where it is, and that's it.
All right. Um, Travis Morton, I think we're gonna get into this in a little bit, but prep work before paint.
But yeah,
Um, Body filler, block, surface, end up with a shitty paint job. So, well, I just learned how to load more comments right now. You know, sometimes we do these Q&As and I'm like, I thought we had more things. There's like a little thing that you have to click to load more comments.
well, no kidding.
I
I
didn't know
didn't.
that.
I
So
didn't.
sorry for everybody that's ever written for the fucking 30 Q&As that we've done. I'm just like, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So who did I just do? Travis Morton. Do we have any more comments? I think we're done.
Cool. Sick. Yeah, I was gonna say
So
I
we
didn't
can
think
get into the fucking meat and potatoes.
right into the potatoes. All right, sick. Thank you guys for those questions. Great questions. Caught me on a couple of them, but I'll get back to you. So yeah, we're literally gonna. I'm going to assume that all of you are painting a black motorcycle with red flames, gold pinstripes around those red flames, and an image transfer of Rhino's face right on the top of the tank. Okay. So good choice on the paint job, by the way.
That'd be
Um,
sick, dude.
it's going to be sick. So what we're going to start with right now, I know the last episode, by the way, thank you for everybody for the comments and stuff. Everybody at the homestead's great. We had a stomach bug rip through and it was just, we weren't going to make it work last week. So apologize for not being around. I absolutely didn't have anything to add to any of that conversation that Rhino didn't already cover. So, my presence should not have been missed. So thank you. So we're going to get into this. The last one, I know we're talking about we're all building a bike, but let's dumb this down. We're just talking about the gas tank right now because the gas tank is going to be the same process for your fender, for your oil tank, for your frame, whatever else. You're going to be doing these same things. The only difference between doing it on a tank and a frame is that you're doing it on tube. And if you're putting flames on a tube, good luck. It sucks. Fucking, it is what it is. Not recommended for a first timer, but hey, fucking do it. So we're going to start with a fresh, brand new peanut tank, whatever, King Sporty tank, whatever you're painting, right? It is brand new with nothing on it. It is bare metal. We just ripped it out of the cardboard box and the plastic that it comes in, and it's got that oily film and shit all over it. First fucking thing you're going to do is get that oily film off. The next thing you're going to do before you do anything is drill your fucking holes in your mounting fucking tabs. Don't do that after. Don't rip up your fucking nice paint job. Do that first. Bare metal gas tank. So the first thing you're going to do is rip it out of the package and you're going to use acetone and get all of that fucking cosmoline oily shit off of it immediately. Get that the fuck off of there. The next thing you're going to do is put it on your backbone and you're going to drill your fucking tab holes for your mounting tab, for your mounting bolts. Don't do that after. I know people do it all the time, but fuck. Why? Why drill into your paint job that you just did? Just do them. I get it if it's like you're painting it for a customer and they, whatever. But that's not what we're talking about. Drill your holes. Make sure it fits. Make sure it's fucking blah, 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 blah. Do any fabrication. Do any, like, if you're doing a peekaboo sight gauge, if you're doing the Vicious Cycles epoxy cutout, whatever, that's when you do it, obviously. Get all of that shit done. Now we have a bright, clean metal tank. What you're going to want to do with that now is you're going to prep that for primer. I am not of the camp that puts body filler on top of bare metal. That's just, I've read a bunch of stuff and seen a bunch of stuff and had some stuff happen. I personally believe body filler, because it's porous, will invite, it's an exothermic reaction. It creates heat when you put it on there. Especially around here, if you have a cold tank, you put the body filler on there, it starts to create heat. It's going to generate moisture between it and the metal. At some point, that will reveal itself as rust. That's my opinion. So when I have bare metal, I'm going to sand it first with 180. 180 is a better cleaner than 80 grit is. So you're going to start with 180 grit. get it all knocked down, get all the contaminants, whatever else off of it, then hit it with 80 grit. I recommend doing 180 on like a DA or whatever, you know, don't fucking kill yourself. If you have a little dual action sander, they can be electric, it can be pneumatic, doesn't matter. That's going to help you a lot, especially for bare metal phase and Bondo and all that shit. 180, then 80 grit. Once you're in 80 grit and the entire thing is sanded, every single square inch of this thing is sanded and it's bare and it's bright metal, hopefully you're going to plan this out that you're going to go hang it where you're shooting and you're going to put primer on it right now because it's bare metal. Bare metal rusts, it oxidizes instantaneously. The second that you abrade it and it is exposed to air, it starts to oxidize immediately. So the sooner you can get that thing in primer, after you've sanded it, you're going to wipe it down with acetone, not wax and grease remover, not window cleaner, not any of that other shit. Nothing with ammonia in it. Keep everything with silicone, grease, white lithium, any of that shit at the opposite end of the fucking workspace. Keep all of that shit, especially silicone. So, sand it to 180, wipe it down with acetone, hang it where you're going to shoot it. Now, for primer, I'm not going to be able to give a whole hell of a lot of advice on rattle can stuff here. There's rattle can primers out there. I see them in the stores. They say sandable, blah, blah, blah. Spray it with a bunch of coats of primer and then go from there. There's your rattle can paint job as far as
What
I'm
about
concerned.
a self-etching primer?
I don't fuck with self etch at
I
all. Yeah,
Oh,
the
you
only
don't? Okay.
time, no, the only time I'll fuck with self etch is like on maybe like on a frame if I'm sanding a little too much in between the axle plates or whatever, and I break through to bare metal. Depending on how much I've broken through to bare metal, I may shoot just a little bit of self etch in there and just leave it the fuck alone for a couple days, let it completely air out. But I don't like it. It has acid in it. It can affect other things. It can interact with other things. Definitely don't shoot wet on wet with that. You know what I mean? It's a different chemical. So I don't fuck with that stuff. Nothing that I use comes out of a spray can. Literally nothing other than glass cleaner. So the primer that I'm going to recommend is epoxy based primer. Epoxy primer is just that. It's epoxy resin. Almost waterproof. Vinyl ester technically is waterproof, but epoxy primer it's very, very, very corrosion resistant. It's the best thing you can put on your tank, as far as I'm aware right now. It's not crazy super expensive. You can get it at a place like O'Reilly's, AutoZone, if they have a paint department, things like that. I've gotten it right at the O'Reilly's down the street. It comes in white, gray, black, blah, blah, blah. You can tint it, all that other shit. I recommend that. You're going to spray the epoxy primer on. Again, go back to your technical data sheet because an epoxy primer is going to have an induction time, which means you have to mix it and then let it sit for 15 minutes. Yes, we will go over mixing it some. If you don't want to do epoxy primer or it's not in the price range or you can't get your hands on it, regular primer, high build primer is fine. Polyester primer is all good. You can get stuff that is high build specifically so that when you spray it down, you do a good 3-4 coats of that. You have plenty of fuck around room to sand and potentially not break through your edges. Either way, you're going to get a primer and you're going to put the primer on it. Then you're going to let the thing sit. I recommend at least a couple days. If you're doing this kind of stuff,
Full days.
check your technical data sheet. Something that is going to be a recurring theme here is stacking and trapping chemicals. If you spray too much too soon, when you spray a layer of paint, this top layer here, if you zoom in on a microscope, the top layer is starting to skim, is what it's called. As soon as you sprayed it and you let the overspray dissipate, the air is moving over the top of it and it's dissolving, it's evaporating the solvents out of it. So the very, very top is going to start to form a little bit of a crust. Once that starts to crust, you put more paint on top of it. The solvents that are now trapped under that first layer of crust are going to have to fight their way through the crust to get out. So that crust is going to show up in a pop. It's going to show up in a fisheye. It's going to show up in a solvent pop, something like that, right? So you don't want to trap your solvents. The main thing you want to understand here when you actually are applying anything is don't fuck with your recoat times, your flash times. Pay attention to the temperature, pay attention to your general surroundings, your airflow. If you have absolutely no airflow and it's 50 degrees, there's no point in painting because it ain't going to cure. It's going to come out like
All
shit.
right, time out. Real quick question.
Go ahead.
The temperature, is it like the ambient temperature in the air or the substrate, like the temperature of the material you're painting?
Very good question. It is the temperature of the material you're painting, your parent material, right? It can be 70 degrees in your paint booth all day long, but if you just took your tank out of the refrigerator, that's not 70 degrees. So it's more important. The general rule of thumb is 70 degrees. 70 degrees and again, and this is all in your technical data sheet, right? But you're aiming for 70 degrees with as little humidity as possible. That's the goal. With constant flowing airflow. You want the airflow to pull the solvents out, right? That's how your paint cures. That's how your paint dries. That's how you're left with your pigment, your solids, and you get all the solvent shit out. If you don't let all the solvent shit get out, you will have problems. I promise. So we'll start there. When you're doing your primer, same thing applies. You're putting your primer on in coats. You're putting your base coat on in coats. You're putting your clear coat on in coats. Pay attention to those recoat times. It's great as a smoker because since I started No Luck, will go out and put a coat down, a light coat, and then I'll come out and let the overspray go away. And then I light up a butt and I smoke a butt. And that takes me 10 minutes. And then I get my shit ready again, get my suit back on, blah, blah, blah. And it's been a recoat time and I'm good. You know what I mean? Depending on the season and the temperature and all that shit.
Take up smoking. Got it. Oh, I'm taking notes.
Bingo. Just kidding. Don't do that. Do push-ups. Do push-ups in between coats. I don't fucking know. Whatever you got to do. But don't, like Mikey Machine Paint said on here a while back, throw the fucking clock away. As soon as you step into paint mindset, throw the fucking clock away. And I also want to,
don't
I want to
rush.
I want to backtrack a little bit too, because this is important to say right off the rip. If you are planning and hoping for a show quality finish, that has to be your mentality from the jump. That you have to decide the minute you have this bare tank in your hands that you are going to do what is necessary to make this a show tank. You cannot get through your primer and your base coat and go, this thing's looking pretty nice. I'm really going to pay attention. You know what I had some dirt nibs in there and blah, blah, blah. I ignored, but now it's starting to look nice. You're too far gone. You're never going to get it perfectly flat and straight and blah, blah, blah. If you start worrying about all that shit when you're on clear coat, it's not going to happen. Have that mindset beforehand. If you have some concessions that you're willing to make, I want it to look good from 10 feet away. All right. I want it to look good from 50 feet away. That's a different expectation. Have your expectation, stick to it. If you are setting out to do this shit at a really high level and you really, really want to make it nice, stick to that. It's the most rewarding fucking thing in the world. When you pull something really nice off, I highly recommend it. That shit gets my rocks off every time. I love it. So sorry, little aside there. Back to what we were talking about. So you got your primer on there. You've let it sit for at least a couple days. Again, go back to your TDS. Now is when you sand your primer down, right? Start with like 180, 240, depending on how much you put on. But I would say at least 240, give it a good scuff, knock everything down flat. When you start sanding it, you're going to notice there's a little bit of this texture, right? When you just start to sand it, you're going to sand until that texture is gone, and then you're going to stop. Don't go to bare metal. Don't do any of that shit, right? If you've sprayed epoxy primer, all you're going to do is scuff that shit, right? After 4 days or whatever, you have to scuff it. Epoxy primer has a really big recoat window. So if you use epoxy primer and you're like, fuck, I can't do the whatever until tomorrow, that's fine.
What are you sanding it down with? Like, so you say 240, you're using on like a tank, which is typically like very round. Are you using a block sander or are you using just a sheet of sandpaper and curving it around?
No, at this point,
and then also like, are you doing cross hatches or all one direction or how do you sand?
At this point, all you're doing is knocking down. So what you're sanding at this stage is the protective layer, your first protective layer between your metal and your paint. This is not necessarily a paint layer. This isn't a decorative layer. This is a protective layer, right? So all you're doing is trying to knock down the texture of it and make it a very flat surface, a very smooth surface rather, so that when you stack things on top of it, they also come out smooth. So when you start with 240, it's pretty aggressive. You start with something like 320, 400 or whatever, you're getting a little finer sand scratches and shit like that. I would prefer to see you do your body work over no higher than 240. Because at this stage, once you've sanded this thing down to 240 and you have a pretty decent layer going on and your shit's protected and you haven't busted through a bunch of bare metal, if you take half the primer off sanding it, go prime it again. Right? You just need that much primer. It is what it is. That's fine. But don't sand it that fucking hard either. Don't try and take the primer off. You want to leave the primer on. You're just trying to get rid of any texture. And you'll see
Just
when
use
it's
a
flat.
lady's touch. Just
Yep.
limp
Nice and
wristed.
easy. Let the sandpaper do it. But yes, you can use blocks. For shit like this, a foam block is good because a foam block, for certain, it depends on what tank. I hate to say it, but it depends on what tank and what shit you're sanding. Like a Sportster tank has two nice, pretty flat sides, right? You can get a nice, like, real rigid block in there and really cut that shit down. But like a peanut tank or something that's smaller,
The
one of
whole
those little
thing is
jugs.
curved, yeah.
Yeah, if you're using a real rigid block, it's not going to be great, but really as rigid as you can to knock down the texture, right? It doesn't have to be the hardest block that you can find, but you don't have to use your hand either, because you're going to get, if you're just using a piece of sandpaper and you're holding it with your fingers like this, you're going to get four little grooves. I don't care what you say. You're going to get those four little grooves.
Right.
That does happen. And you will see it in the clear coat phase because you did it in primer. I promise.
Now, let me ask you another question here, because Scotch Brite pads is essentially like a sanding, like a soft sanding pad, and they come in different grits, right? You have the green, red, and gray. The red one, I think, is in the neighborhood of 400 grit or something like that, or
320,
320 or
400.
something. Okay. So that's a viable option as well.
Absolutely. So the red Scotch Brite is going to be your best friend for any of those real hard to reach areas up in your little tank bungs and shit like that, especially on your frame, getting in all your little nooks and crannies and stuff. You're going to absolutely have to go in there and root around with some red Scotch Brite. If you don't, the paint ain't going to stick to it, and it is what it is. Red Scotch Brite, gray Scotch Brite is way finer. I don't even mess with gray Scotch Brite
Oh, that's the
personally,
finest one. Okay.
as far as I'm aware. I only stock red Scotch Brite. That's it. And it's about a 320 scratch. Um, but that shit's great for knocking down like intercoat layer or your lockdown layers and stuff like that. You just want to scuff something down and take the shine away from it because it's already flat.
Yeah.
Boom. Great.
I'll tell you
Get
too, you can buy those in big sheets like at Ace Hardware and shit, and then you can cut them up, and they're only like $3 for a big pad, and you can use them for paint. I use them for paint, right? I think you're the one that put me onto them, but it's also really great for cleaning up metal for welding too, because it's
yeah.
just like if you're just doing some finishing welding, some TIG or something. I use those to wrap around the sissy bar. I shouldn't have made that hand motion. Chat's
Yeah.
going crazy.
Yeah, no, red Scotch Brite is absolutely your friend. Get yourself a box of that. You can get that right on Amazon or wherever too. But that's great for anything your sandpaper won't get. Um, that's the important distinction. Don't rely on Scotch Brite. Scotch Brite is not going to remove. It's not going to flatten anything. It's conforming to the surface. So if you have a big ass dent and all you're using is Scotch Brite, it's just going to conform to the dent and you're never going to get that dent away. If you're going for
Right.
flat, glossy, mirror finish, depth of image at the end of this, you can't have dents. You can't have that shit. So
But it's great for in
that's
between coats because it's not aggro enough to really cut through unless you're really going to town.
right.
Get all the
Exactly.
contours, hard to reach places, and when you do that, you can see your paint go from, like, a shinier down to a dull, and you can see where you've touched and where you haven't. So, like,
Exactly.
along the welds and stuff like that, you're like, "I haven't touched that with the that hasn't been scuffed yet."
Right. Yep. You
Right.
want in between, you want at every step of this process, you want your shit scuffed in between. You never want to be spraying glossy paint with more paint. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. So where we at? So we're at body work now. This is where you're at. You got that thing sanded down to 180, 240, whatever. You are going to move on to your Bondo, your filler at this point. Um, if you do it the way I do. This is a good time. You have a nice healthy scratch in there. Get your body work done. I got my ass handed to me by Bondo today. I'll be perfectly upfront with you. I absolutely got my ass handed to me by Bondo. I have a lot to learn about Bondo, doing it on cars and stuff specifically. But get yourself the best brand Bondo you can get. The more expensive it is, the easier it is to use and sand. I, it's universal truth. You pull stuff that you can get at O'Reilly's, it'll get you by 100%. The JB Weld stuff, the Bondo brand, that'll all get you by, no problem. You can splurge for some 3M shit, some Evercoat stuff, Flick Sand, any of that stuff. Highly, highly, highly recommended. It makes your life so much easier, especially if you're molding out welds on your frame and all that other shit.
Dude, I will say, just because you mentioned O'Reilly's, I just noticed they're carrying some higher grade shit for body work in that section now. Like, they actually carry, I think it is Evercoat does a 2K clear. You could never get it there before. And, I think they have a higher, an Evercoat. I think that's their, like, premier brand or whatever, but they have, like, a nicer Bondo, you know? Before, it was
Yeah,
just the trash. It was just Bondo and then
you
just
pull.
straight up spray paint and shit.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's just an ease thing. That's just a how easy do you want this process to go? Do you want to fight through every bit of it, but or are you broke? I get it. Same, because I have JB Weld primer and filler and shit out in the garage right now as we speak. So I'm not hating. Across the board, again, another universal truth with paint is better, more expensive materials will make your life easier. Period. I'm learning that right now. I always ran the cheapest shit I could find when I was doing no luck, unless the customer could afford better shit. Um, Using higher end shit is so much fucking easier, so much better. It works. It doesn't react with the other shit that you're using. It's just the things that are supposed to sand nicer. They sand better. They don't have pinholes all over them. All this other shit. So get yourself some Bondo primer or filler. Um, and if you don't have any frame of reference on body work and stuff, I would start with YouTube. I'm certainly not going to be your best bet to start out with because I'm still learning this whole part of the process. Um, but realistically, you want a nice scuff surface. You're going to jam your Bondo into that surface, and then you're going to sand it once it's cured. I
And this
recommend
is
not
this is
letting
something I've never done before is so you get the primer down on everything and then put the filler
filler on
on
top.
top, and I've never done that before. So I'm actually at that stage now where I finished all the welding on the frame. So my next step there is actually to paint it, like seal it in.
Yep, good epoxy primer. If you don't
And I
have some,
guess
come
all the
get some.
tins, I guess the fender and the tank and everything, get it all sealed in.
As soon as you can, if it's bare metal. Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Yep. Fuck yeah, dude. Let's get rolling on that. Um, where was I? I forgot. Oh,
I just
okay.
real
So
quick,
back to
there
standing. Oh,
the you had mentioned, to me a while ago, a brand of Bondo is like, same as Band-Aid, right? Like, that's you know, the same thing as saying body filler or whatever, but 3M, what's that one called?
Platinum Plus.
Platinum Plus, yeah.
Sounds like a strip club. That's how I remember it. Platinum Plus Club. Yeah, it's some people in the industry call it honey. It's really really nice to work with. It's very very low viscosity as opposed to like if you think of your stereotypical Bondo where it's like it's fucking mud, and then you add your cream hardener to it and it's hard to work with and whatever to knead it. This stuff is like you dip your paint stick in it and pull it up and it's like kind of running off of your paint stick slowly. It's really nice to work with. It sands super super nice, super fine, blah blah blah. Something I highly recommend at this stage is guide coat. When you have your tank fresh from being primed before you've touched it at all with sandpaper, they make this stuff. They have a powder, but they also have some people just use black spray paint. I don't do that just because it's another chemical. And why introduce other chemicals? You don't have to. And they make a powder that doesn't react. So it comes in a little thing. You smear it on. If you're doing it, I think it comes in black and white. So you pick whichever contrasting color to what you're dealing with. If you're doing white primer, you get black. If you're doing black primer, you get white, whatever. so that you have a contrast. You smear that shit on. When you sand it, when that color, that powder goes away, you know you're flat. That's
Okay.
how much
I
easier
never
does it
used
get.
that. I've always used the spray. I was taught the spray paint method where you just take a darker spray paint or a lighter one and then sand until the specks go away.
Yeah, 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 for sure. And that's
Guide coat, it's called.
guide coat. Yep. And that's a totally, there's plenty of people that do it. They make spray on guide coat, which I'm pretty certain is just trim black paint. It's like really, really watery black paint. But it just gives you a contrast so that when you've sanded all of that color off, there you go, you're flat, right? As long as you haven't hit bare metal, you're fucking gooch. You can use the same thing on your body work and shit. Once you've jammed all your Bondo in there and you get in there with 80 grit, 36 grit, whatever, some real, real, real low grit shit, and you scrape off all of the extra Bondo that you're not going to need and you start to actually go in there and refine it, you're going to want some sort of a contrast to help you, especially on frames and shit like that. It's so helpful. Do it without it on one side of the tank and then do it with the guide coat, and you'll be like, Jesus, I'll never not use guide coat again. It's no brainer in my opinion. Um, and then again, blocks. You want something that's firm enough to actually shave the top of the orange peel, right? It's orange. When you hear orange peel, things that when you spray something right off the gun, it tends to have a little bit of a texture to it. And if you look at that texture the right way, it looks like the peel of an orange. That's what painters refer to as orange peel. You want to just cut the top of the orange peel off. You're not trying to remove your primer. That's it. So as far as blocks are concerned, that's all you really need. So you get your body work in, your Bondo in, you sand that down, you refine those scratches. Then from there, I recommend another dousing of primer. So you're locking your bodywork in 2 layers of primer. It's all the same shit. It's all Gucci. It works together. And then you have another layer on top with your primer to bridge between your bodywork and your paint. I do not recommend putting paint directly over Bondo. Bondo is porous. Bondo can leach. It will pull color out of paint, dye back, shrinkage, all that shit, right? So once you've done all your body work, seal your body work. I actually recommend a sealer, which is a little bit different from primer. Basically, sealer is it's an epoxy primer that is diluted, right? It's reduced. It's a less viscous epoxy primer. And what you're looking to do is put on 1 or 2 coats of this, just enough to cover everything up. And again, it's epoxy based. So you're locking all of that potentially porous, moisture ridden shit in between 2 layers of epoxy. You don't have to worry about corrosion anymore, realistically. Not for the lifetime of that bike. You're going to wreck it or the welds are going to crack before this shit fucks up. You know what I mean? Before it rusts away underneath you. So I highly recommend epoxy primer on that as a sealer. Do a sealer over your body work. Then
Is
from there,
is it the same primer that you used initially but just reduced further? Are you just adding additional reducer?
so that's what I do. Yes. So I do epoxy primer, and then I will do over top of the epoxy primer, I will do my Bondo and shit. And then I will do another layer of epoxy primer that is reduced slightly. It's like 5%, 2.5%. I forget exactly what it is. I have it written down. Reduce it a little bit and it sprays out a lot nicer. It levels out a lot better, especially if you use a little bit slower reducer. And again, that's kind of advanced shit, but you can alter which reducers you use in your shit to slow down and let your paint flow out a little bit depending on your temperatures, whatever. So that's what I'll use because it gives me a nice, usually if you spray it right and you don't get a bunch of runs, you get a nice, there's not a lot of texture in sealer because it's so thin. What that allows you to do is wet on wet. Wet on wet means the epoxy primer has not completely dried or cured yet. It is still in the curing process, which with most epoxy primers is like 4 days. It's a big recoat window that you don't have to go in and scuff it. So you can go shoot your epoxy primer and then let your epoxy primer dry to the touch, but it's still not cured. And then you can just go in with your base coat, your color, which is next, and spray it right on top, you're getting a chemical adhesion. You're not just getting a mechanical. Mechanical adhesion is when you sand something and then you put something in there. That tooth, the tooth profile of the sandpaper, the paint locks into there on a molecular level. That's a mechanical adhesion. We're talking about a chemical adhesion, which is vastly superior to a mechanical, right? So you can go wet on wet with sealer. You spray a couple layers of sealer, and then if you're ready, I will always spray the base coat immediately after doing the second round of sealer. So stick around in the booth, let that flash off. Then I'm moving right into my base coat, which we can move into here in a second.
Oh, hold on 2 seconds. Says, Gordon says that some primers have a cut sheet for high build, primer, and sealer. So
Yes.
what's a cut sheet? Is that like this is what also you can do with this primer?
Right. Yep.
Okay.
And there's also hybrid primers out there. What is it? Fuck. V No, I don't know. I don't want to misspeak, but there's one out there that I just became aware of pretty recently that's like a hybrid that's like it's an epoxy, but it's also a urethane and it's yeah, I don't know. So there's a bunch of different shit out there. Again, I can only attest to the stuff that I've used. Uh, but yeah. So sorry, let me track here. So yeah, you're sanding out your bodywork and then you put another layer of primer over top of it. If you're using epoxy primer, you can go right into your base coat. If you're using your regular primer, your high build primer stuff to go over top, totally fine. Absolutely cool. However, that stuff gives you more of a texture just because it's thicker. You have to spray it through a bigger gun and blah, blah, blah. So I recommend you let that dry again a couple days, sand it flat one more time, make sure you're happy with your body work, right? If you need to, you can do body work again, but why not just do it all in one go? Once you're happy with that and you've sanded your primer flat, put your base coat on top of that because now you've got a really flat surface. You're good. Sand that out before your base coat. If you're sanding primer, I would sand that out to 600 if you're doing an opaque color, black, darker color, whatever, especially if it's just a regular, I'm using red, I'm using black, whatever. If you're using metallic, a pearl, anything else like that, I recommend out to 800. It's a finer sand
And
scratch.
just a real quick question about sanding
Yep.
at this stage too.
Mhm.
Are you wet sanding this stuff or is
Yep.
it dry sanding?
I'm
Okay.
dry sanding primer. Yeah, I don't wet sand primer ever. I don't think.
Do you wet
Yeah.
sand base coat ever?
I don't sand base coat if I absolutely don't have to.
Uh, okay, I'm getting ahead of us. Okay.
So yeah, I recommend 600 for regular base, out to 800 for, or even some people do it over 1,000. I'm not that brave. 800 for metallics and pearls and stuff, and that's because you're going to get a finer sand scratch. If you're doing, say you're doing a copper pearl, right, which is a very floppy color. If you spray that over 400 grit sand scratches, you're going to see every single one of them in your clear coat. You will see all of the scratches. And when the light
Mm.
hits it, you will see them and they will be very obvious and you'll hate yourself. Ask me how I know. So 800, you can wet sand it. If you're getting up to 800, you can wet sand it if you really want to get funky. I don't think you need to get that funky because you really want these things to stick to each other. If you're not doing the epoxy primer, or I'm sorry, the sealer wet on wet route and you're doing mechanical adhesion, the coarser the grit, the better the adhesion. Realistically, is
I got
without.
another sanding question too.
Okay.
When you're sanding your primer,
Hmm.
you don't there's going to be obviously paint that you've scuffed off on the surface. How are you cleaning in between each sanding?
Blow it off with a blowgun. If
That's
you
it?
have access, blow it off with a blowgun, and then so when you're getting ready to spray base coat onto it, you're going to want to hit it with a wax and grease remover. Again, I only use like window cleaner if it does not have ammonia in it. And I literally only use that like for that very example to clean off like if I'm sanding clear coat or if I'm sanding primer or whatever, just to get the shit off of there. But I'll blow it off first, hit it with that real quick, hit it with the blowgun again and make sure that
Like,
shit gets.
I think a popular cheap one is like Spray Max, no ammonia window cleaner. Comes,
Yep.
you get it at O'Reilly's, get it at Family Dollar.
Yep. Spray away. Any of that stuff's good.
Sprayway, that's the one. Yeah,
Spray away. Yeah, that's what I use. Smells great.
I love
Literally
the
got
smell,
on my
dude.
fingertips right now from work. So yeah, once you're sanded up, you're gonna.
We need to get a Sprayway
Yeah.
endorsement for Idle
Oh,
Hand
man.
Show.
I want a sprayway candle or like a car scent.
Huff this shit right now.
Oh, it's so good. All right,
A
so now you're at.
cologne, a Sprayway cologne.
There you go. That's fucking brilliant.
Drive the fellas crazy.
All right, so now you're out to 800, and you're getting ready to spray your base coat.
Wipe it down with Malort.
Oof. Honestly, probably would be great. Probably would
There's
work.
probably ammonia in that, though.
Yeah, true. Ugh, I don't think we're supposed to be drinking ammonia either, but fucking hey, it tastes like it. That's the Windex flavor. There you go. It is an ammonia.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Um, damn it, you maybe lost track of what I was
Sorry, I keep on interjecting.
doing. Are we on base coat? We're on base coat, right?
Base coat now, yeah.
Yeah.
So we just
So,
cleaned it
so
off.
you're cleaning it off before you hang it up to spray your base coat. You're using a wax and grease remover, but you absolutely must also retain this bit of information. When you wipe it down and you clean it, air the motherfucker off with compressed air. Get that stuff off of there. Here's where you'll see it. If you're doing a peanut tank or something, the mounting tabs, if you look, that tunnel doesn't get fully welded. There's a little spot up underneath where shit can, especially liquid, aerosolized liquid, can get up underneath there and get trapped. And if it's not warm enough or windy, blustery enough, it's not going to blow all that shit out of there for you. So when you put your paint on top of it, that shit's going to make your paint react, and it's going to wrinkle and it's going to fuck it up, and you're going to hate yourself. So whatever the fuck you use, everybody's got their own libations, and that's cool. Whatever you use to wipe your shit down before you put paint on top of it, make sure it is gone before you put paint on top of it. Okay? Just there you go. So now you got your shit, your tank is hanging up. So at this point, we're starting to get into color, which come the P's. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. I'm going to explain to you how I would do it. This goes into the layered paint job stuff too. So again, as a reminder, we have a black gas tank that we're going for with red flames that have a gold pinstripe and an image transfer on it. Image transfers are all the rage, so I figured we'd throw one of those on there. So how do we get those three colors to stack in a way that we're not doing a bunch of backtracking? Because remember, the only way to make these shapes is with tape. And the only way to make those shapes with tape is with your fingies. So you don't want to do that. You want to do that as few times as possible, right? Especially if you're doing flames. So here's what I am going to do. The first color I'm going to spray is gold. And a lot of people might go, what the fuck? We're doing a gold pinstripe. So what I'm going to do is spray the tank gold, and then I'm going to either use an inner coat clear, which is literally just clear base coat. There's no catalyze. There's no nothing to it. It's literally your regular ass base coat with no pigments in it. It's just clear. That's great as a lockdown clear to stack and save your colors and your rounds so you don't actually sand through or whatever, shit like that. I'm going to spray gold, and then I'm going to do a layer clear coat or inner coat clear and pause. Then I'm going to wait till that is dry. I'm going to scuff that, either one of those things, with red Scotch-Brite. And then I am going to clean it off again. And then I am going to tape out my flames from there on top of the gold. Now, here's the theory. I'm going to tape out the gold, and then where that tape stays is where the tape ends up is where it fucking stays until we're pulling all the colors off and we're ready for clear coat. Because underneath that tape is going to be your gold pinstripe. Unless you're a pinstriper, then pinstripe the shit after. But I'm not a pinstriper. So say you want a 1/8 inch fine line pinstripe around your flames. If you paint your tank the color of your pinstripe and then tape it, there's your pinstripe. Now all you have to do is back mask the inside of the flames and paint that red. So you're going to leave the inside of the flames open at this point, and you're going to put masking tape everywhere else. Okay? It's not any more complicated than that. Fancy ways of doing it. Just make sure there is masking tape on everything else. Then You can do it either way. You can spray your red flames next, and then you can let that dry and then mask the red flames off. And then you can, so here's the deal. This is where you have to be really fucking careful, right? Because you're stacking a lot of shit on top of each other, and it's really easy to fuck up base coat, right? Base coat is the least strong coating, right? Base coat can just be scratched right off usually, whatever. You're spraying it on really, really lightly. You're not putting a lot of it on. It's not meant to be a protective coating. It's literally just the color, right? So you have to be kind of brave to do it this way, or you have to work your fucking ass off. You can do the gold, lay out your pinstripe, back mask, and then do your red flames. And then now you would theoretically have a gold tank with red flames on it, right? You pull all the tape off and then clear coat it and do a reset, right on. But remember, you have to re-tape your flames.
Right.
So if you're not confident retaping the exact same shape, you're going to get blowouts, which is when colors overlap where they weren't supposed to because your tape wasn't where it's supposed to be, right? So you'll end up, if you have a gold pinstripe, if you don't lay that shit perfectly, you might end up with a little bit of red in your gold pinstripe because your tape wasn't perfect, whatever.
You really so the way when you were walking me through doing my tank,
Yep.
I had it all backwards because I'm like, okay, I want a black tank, so you spray paint it black, and then I want red flame, so you spray paint the red. But you
Right.
got to remember that you're layering all this stuff, so you actually want to go from like lightest to darkest, and also if you don't want to fucking redo your flames, if your flame because you're gonna take a long time doing your fucking flames, so you do it. That tape doesn't move. You just add more tape. Now you're adding more tape instead of taking it off and trying to get these lines perfect. Because I tell you what, dude, you're not going to get it exactly the way that you laid it. You know what I mean? So you have to think of it in reverse. Go from like what you would think is the last step, which is like pinstriping your flames. That's the first step.
Correct. Yep. Because it's also the most difficult. It's the most difficult to recreate if you have to do it twice or more. If you have to lay out those tape lines on all those flames more than one time, that sucks. And I've never seen anybody get it fucking perfect because guys who are pros at this shit don't do it that way, right? So the way I'm going to do it is lay out the flames. There's our gold pinstripe. I'm going to mask off depending on the colors. I'm going to do the red first. Main reason is, knowing me, my gold and my red are going to have some pearl to it. I don't love sticking with just regular opaque base colors. I like there to be a little pop in them. So what I don't want is to do the black first, and then I have a little spot where some of the red gets through. When you get metallic or pearl or any of that shit on top of black, you might not see it when it's right in front of you because it's all matte. The surface it's not shiny in front of you. When you spraying your base coat, when you let it air off, it's flat. It's matte finish. So you might not see this. You go to clear coat over it, and then you see it in the sun, and you'll have a big fucking run of red pearl that you didn't see right in the middle of your black, and it looks like shit. So I'm going to do the black last. Whatever the main color of the bike is, I'm going to do that last because I have everything else masked off. That's the main color. Nothing can, if I'm spraying it last, nothing can go over it. You know what I mean? Everything else is the effect. So I'm going to do the main color of the bike last. Gold pinstripe is your tape. You mask what is going to be black. Or, I mean, you can just spray the whole fucking thing red with your tape on it. And then you just have to tape the other side, the red off inside of your flame so that the other side of that tape is going to be black, right? So you spray your gold, you lay your tape, you mask off where you don't want the flames, you spray your flames red, then you mask off your flames, then you spray your tank black. Then you remove all your tape, then you hit it with clear coat. Now you've got your paint job clear coated, right?
Yeah, and it's way easier because it's way easier to do it that way again because you already have tape down where your pinstripe is. So like when you're putting down the tape on the flames, you're gonna have to take a razor blade and go around. You know what I mean? And paint and tape is very thin. So if you push too hard, you're gonna fucking go right into it. You know, you can't. You have to be very ginger about
Yeah.
this, right? So just
Yep.
very, lay out the tape and a couple questions about tape. So like
I was gonna say
your
we might as well just get into taping now.
we should get into taping, and this is definitely gonna have to be a two-parter, guys,
Yeah, for
because
sure.
there's so many fucking we're going into image transfers. People have questions about pearls versus fucking this and that and candies and all that shit. So we're gonna cut it off, but let's get into the tape right now because we can at least get to a point where you have your flames taped out in the 3 colors we're doing done.
Absolutely. Sure. All right. So you have two main types of tape that you're going to want for, say, painting flames. This is going to apply with any other effects that require making shapes with tape, right? You have vinyl fine line and what they call crepe tape, which is paper tape. I don't use crepe tape ever at all. The colors bleed and it doesn't stretch and roll very well. I use the vinyl shit for everything. My
For
preferred
everything.
for everything. Well,
I
not
didn't know
like
that.
not like the thick masking paper where I'm just trying to cover shit up, but like anything I'm using to make effects, vinyl across the board, 100%. Specifically now, FBS is my brand. 3M makes some good stuff. It's a little too tacky. I think Mikey and I had discussed that when we did the podcast a while back, but FBS is great. Custom Shop has some stuff that you can get on like Amazon and whatever. There are like Amazon, Temu brand fine lines out there, and they leave adhesive behind that you can see in your finished paint job and stuff. So again, it's a matter of all of this is how much skin in the game do you want to have? You
All
know,
the painters in the chat seem to agree FBS for life.
FBS is the shit. FBS really is the shit. I've
Just
used
get
all the different
just get
colors.
the good stuff. It's not that
Yeah,
much more expensive.
it's not. You're the first time you go to buy a roll of fine line tape, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? Because it's like you're going to get a roll of 1/8 inch tape. It's 36 yards. It really isn't that much, and it's like $15 for a roll of it. Trust me, there is no better alternative. It is what it is. They've got the monopoly cornered on that one. Vinyl fine line tape is the shit, and FBS is the best.
Yeah.
To get
Paint's
yourself
paint's more expensive, so if you keep on fucking up
paid.
these fine lines, then
Exactly. And you want your tape to be legit. You want your tape to be 100% seated. You don't want any little ripples and wrinkles in your tape. Like your tape's very fucking important. Your tape and your application of said tape is what's going to give you nice, clean lines. If you don't want a bunch of weird little blowouts and in your gold pinstripe to have a bunch of black and a bunch of red shooting in from different spots where your tape wasn't flat, then good for you. I don't want that. So the tape's really
painting
important.
is frustrating enough and hard enough as it is. Like, if you're gonna splurge, it's like, dude, you're gonna get the Timu tape for what, $10? Or you can get the FBS for fucking whatever you said.
15. Yeah. Right.
15. What the
Yeah.
fuck, dude? That's a
Or whatever.
no-brainer.
Yeah. Whatever it is. You know what I mean? And go on like FBS website. They explain which color is there. Some of them are more supple and will bend more, and some of them are a little more rigid and won't bend more, but are great for like really long lines, shit like that. They explain it way better than I can. Each color corresponds with a different suppleness, I guess you could say. Um,
It's like yeah, you
I
sometimes you want a more supple tape.
yeah. I think that's actually how they describe it as supple. But so you're gonna get your fine line tape, and then you're gonna go to your refrigerator or whatever, and you're gonna practice a fucking bazillion times. What to do flames? I sort of had to just look at pictures of flames and then literally just copy to get like to understand how a flame goes. You know what I mean? Like that's I don't know. You're gonna have to figure that out on your own. But as far as taping
Maybe
them,
use the Timu tape for the practice.
for sure, you can get 10 rolls of shitty Timu tape to put on your refrigerator or whatever on a skateboard or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? To practice, absolutely. It's fine. What you want to focus on when you're laying your tape is not stretching the tape. You can put tension on it, and there's plenty of tension to be had. But when you're going around, you want to pull a lot of it out. We might have to do this part on YouTube because I don't know how I'm going to describe
This
this.
will be on YouTube.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, go fucking watch this on YouTube. Jesus Christ.
Or watch it on Spotify.
Or Spotify while you're driving, ideally. No, I'm just kidding. So
I
when
do
you're
that.
doing it, when you're pulling your tape, right? So I'm pressing down here and I'm doing my tape lines down here. I have the roll in this hand and I
Like a
have like
foot and a
2
half out,
feet of
yeah.
it. Yeah, I have a lot of it out. I'm not doing it like right here. A lot of it out like this allows you some torque where you can kind of lean into it, lean with
Make a
it, rock with
long
it.
curving line, yeah.
Yep, long curving line. So when you're coming in, the hardest part of flames is the bellies. Word to the wise, if you want a nice flame job, make all of your bellies roughly the same size and shape. That's what I've kind of figured out. I like
Do you lay out a like, something on with, like, chalk or anything first, or you just do straight t you just do a straight tape?
straight tape. Yep. Yeah, I'll usually smoke a J or whatever and just kind of get in that headspace and
Just
just
lock
kind
the
of let it
fuck
do it.
in.
Yep. Truth be told, this what we're talking about, taping flames very specifically is my favorite part of custom paint. Period. I would if there was a job that you just taped flames on shit, that's what I would do for a living. I'd be very happy. So
When you nail it, it feels really great.
it does. It feels fucking awesome, especially after you pull it all at the end and you don't have any blowouts and your tips are nice and crispy and all that. Oh, it's such a good feeling. So your bellies, when you're going in, you want to leave yourself a lot of room on your tape. You want to have a good foot and a half, 2 feet out in your other hand. And as you're going around, you want to make sure that you're burnishing that tape down with your finger as you're going around and making sure that every square inch of that tape is flat. If you're trying to get it to go around a tight turn and you're getting weird wrinkles, you're doing it too
So,
tight.
by burnishing, you mean just, like, pressing fucking hard?
Not press hard. Because if you're doing it and you press too hard and you have to, oh, I didn't get that shape right, you have to adjust it a couple times. So don't
Okay.
burnish it all the way in until you're like, that's where I want my shape is. I go back, I literally will tape it, and then once I'm happy with it, I will go back in and
And
physically press.
the bellies are, like, the inside of the flames, the tight radius.
Right. Yep, the tight radius in there. Some people will do those first. Some people will plot out where their flames go by just doing bellies. And I think that's a great idea if that's how you do it. That's not really how I do it. I just like I literally I don't believe in symmetrical flames unless I'm doing like a lowrider hood or something where it's like you can see the entire fucking thing. There's not a symmetrical set of flames in nature that's ever existed. So I don't get bogged down in that. I like asymmetrical flames. It's the only asymmetrical thing I like. So I just kind of let them free.
If you did wanna do symmetrical, though,
Yep.
basically, you have to trace it, like, on a piece of paper and then just flip it upside down and put it on the other side, right?
Nope, not necessarily. The times that I've done them, I'll get close. Like obviously I want to be close to symmetrical, but I'm not gonna like get a fucking tinker tape out every single time and make sure that this lick is exactly this far off center with everything.
Just eyeballing it.
With every design you do, find center. Take a piece of tape and put it right down the center of your tank, right? From the front tank tab to the rear tab. And there's your center line. You can use, I recommend you get different varying widths of these tapes, right? They come in 16th inch, 8th inch, quarter inch, half inch, right? Get a bunch of even the thicker masking tape, the 1 3/4, the 2 inch masking tape and shit. You can use those as spacers. So if you find your center and you're like, I want these two licks to be right here, take 2 pieces of 1 inch tape on either side of center, and there you go. That's where your tape lines start on either side. And then you just have to eyeball. I just eyeball. I'll dissociate for a second. I have one side and I'm like, yeah, I like that one. And then I'll look back and then I'll just literally play with the tape until I get it to match the same kind of deal. And again, I'm not getting super, super precise on that unless I absolutely have to. But if you do have to, and you can get away with it, use the width of the tape because then you just lay a piece of tape next to another piece of tape next to another piece of tape. As long as you've got them in there nice and tight, you've got your shit centered, right? So that's how I do it. That's how I measure shit out and find all that stuff and get symmetrical and whatever. Um, what else? So be gentle with your tape. If you are trying to get a nice tight radius and you're pulling on it too much, you will physically stretch the tape. And then what you'll notice when you pull everything, you might get it to sit flat and you might not notice it in your tape out. But when you pull all your tape, you'll have your gold pinstripe will be eighth inch, eighth inch,
And
eighth inch.
yeah,
And then once it goes there, it gets skinnier and it goes down and you got a 5/16
yeah.
pinstripe and
One
it
thing I
looks
wanted to mention about just the width too when you're laying out these, because I this happened to me the first time I taped out flames, is you want skinny flames. So when you're laying out your pinstripe, remember it's the outside of the tape is going to be the width of the flames. And I like the first time I did it way too wide because the inside looked good. But then once you rip it all off and you have your pinstripe on there, you're like, this is, if you do 1/8 inch tape, I don't know what the math is on that, but it's an 1/8 inch here and an 1/8 inch on the other side of the flame. It makes it quite a bit bigger
Right.
and it does
Yeah.
not look choppery.
And the inverse of that is, say we weren't doing red flames. Say we were doing a black tank with gold flames. I'm going to tape out those tape lines, right? That is now the outside of your flames. You have to include that in the width of your flames. So if you're going for little tiny skinny chopper boys and you're doing it that way, you have to account for the width of your tape, because when you pull your shit and you want little wispy guys, it'll be wider than you think because of your tape. You know what I mean? So keep that in mind. This is the stuff you have to
Yeah.
think about. When I do this, what is going to happen?
Yeah. We
You know what I
got
mean?
Gordon saying, don't be afraid to overlap your tape to make the flames tight. You don't want lobster claws. That's exactly what
Mhm.
it looked like too. The big fucking goofy lobster claw.
Yeah.
They're
That's
stupid.
not a flame. This is not a flame. Don't do that. Okay. That's
It's like the penguin, dude. These hands.
yeah. It's just the taping itself without it's kind of hard. I'm struggling to describe how to do it without actually doing it and showing you guys and being there. But fortunately, I
You
learned
should
all
do a
this
little you should do some YouTube videos.
maybe. I'm more than happy to I learned all this shit on YouTube realistically and then just doing it myself. So there's a fucking million, and I'm happy to go through and find some that I recommend and send them to you and whatever. Yeah, I know I'm not very eloquent about explaining this. Keep the tape loose, have all the time in the world, and have fun.
You'll know if you lay it down right, right? I mean, you can just feel it after you lay, because it's going to be a trial and error thing where you're going to lay it down and you're going to have creases and stuff, and you're going to have to pull it up. You're going to waste a lot of tape because it loses its adhesiveness too. Every time you stick it down, it doesn't sit
Exactly.
right. So
Here's a
you'll
tip.
get to a point where you hit that flow state and you're like, all right, I'm laying down the lines. I know just enough pressure and how far I'm holding the tape out and I'm getting them just how I want. It just takes practice. So you kind of just get the Timu tape and go to your refrigerator when your wife's trying to cook you dinner and get in her way and just start laying down fucking flames until you get something that looks decent, and then use your expensive tape and go over to your chopper and fucking start laying some decent ones.
And here's a tip for the tape that I'll end the tape spiel with probably.
Tape
Uh,
tip.
if you're trying to do flames and you want some small flames or whatever, and you're struggling to get the belly, you're struggling to get that with the tape that you're using, use a thinner tape. If you're trying to use 1/4 inch tape, use 1/8 inch tape. It'll bend a little bit easier. And then this is what I do. I use 1/8 inch tape for pretty much all effects, all graphics. And then I'll have my 1/8 inch tape line where my flames are going to be. And then I'll do another 1/8 inch tape line on the outside of that. So I'll double that. I'll have them just barely overlap each other so that when I'm masking, when I go to cut around my flames on the tape lines, I'm cutting where they overlap. So it's a little bit thicker for one, but also I have a little bit more wiggle room with my masking tape, right? You have that much further away from your shit, you're from where you're actually spraying and blah, blah, blah. So it gives
Right.
you a little bit more of
And
a
it's
gap.
and the reason that that matters is because when you spray paint, where that razor blade is, you're spraying paint in there. And if you cut too deep and you cut down into the next layer, on that line where your pinstripe is, you're going to see a fucking line of red that you're going to have to
And
fuck with later.
yeah, here's the deal with that. If you are not ripping all of the tape and clear coating in between each layer, if you have that happen, you're going to have a hell of a time contending with that. You're going to have to more than likely mask off that line and respray gold in that line. And guess what? Metallics aren't super easy to blend, right? So it's not a sure thing. You want your tape to be fucking solid, right? If you want anything else, I mean, you want all of this to be solid, but you want your tape to be solid. You don't want to put your tape on when it's 60 degrees out in the afternoon and then leave it in the garage overnight when it's 30 degrees, because that tape's going to shrink and that tape's going to pull, and you're going to come back and those
Been
nice
there.
bellies that you finally got fucking laid out are going to have pulled up and they're fucked. You can't just push that tape back down because you pulled
Yeah.
tension into it when you made the belly.
Lessons we've all learned through experience. I was like, all right, because it's all time consuming. So sometimes when you're chopping shit, you know, you're like, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna come back, and I'll finish it up tomorrow. And I laid out all my fucking flames, and I was like, tomorrow I'm gonna tape it off, I'm gonna spray it, and I had my whole day set. It took me 2 hours to lay these fuckers out, and the next day it was just like spaghetti, dude. It all lifted up, it all peeled up, and you cannot put it back down where it was.
It's so depressing when
Not
you
solid.
when you finally like you get all your tape and you're like fucking nailed it. Be ready to fucking spray that shit. You know what I mean? Or cover the whole fucking thing in masking tape. Like what I'll
Masking tape
do
does hold better, yeah,
when
and
I lay
it'll
out my
hold it.
flames, right? Say I just laid out my flame, the pinstripe, right? I'll, if I'm like, fuck, I have to stop here, I will at least take thick, big masking tape and tape down the bellies all the way in through the bellies, anywhere there's tension on the tape, and the very, very tips. Because the tips like to curl up too. Because you have to, where your flames intersect at your tip, right? You're going to have to take a razor blade and trim that off. Okay. Because that's your pinstripe. You want your pinstripe to be not
Yep.
crossed at the end of them. You know what I mean? So you're going to have to nick those off with a razor blade or whatever. So it's just, fuck, I had another tip and I lost it. Oh, warm your tape. If you want your tape to bend a little bit better, warm it up a little bit. Put it in your pocket, walk around, go for a run or something. Or I have literally in the middle of winter out here, I painted a bicycle frame and he wanted flames on it. Same kind of deal, white pinstripe. It was dark purple flames, black bike. So because I had to do it on a 1 inch or 1 1/4 inch backbone on this bicycle, I literally hung the tape in front of my heater and got it to the point where like it was hot, like the adhesive. And it's probably not good for the tape. It's probably not good for the adhesive and whatever. But that shit'll bend a lot easier and it'll stick a lot better if it's a little bit warm. I'm not saying put it in the fucking microwave and make it hot, but if you warm
Body
it up a
heat's
little
good,
bit,
dude. Yeah, throw it
y-
in your pocket,
yep.
stick it down the front of your underpants,
Keep your
hair
tape
dryer.
when you're done with your rolls of fine line tape. I need to be better about this myself. Keep them in a fucking plastic bag. Keep them in a Ziploc because the edges of those things are tacky. That's the adhesive on the very end. They just make big fucking rolls of this shit and slice it, right? So it's just the ends of them are tacky. If you leave them around and you get dust and all that shit, what you'll notice eventually, you'll lay your shit out and then on the edge of your tape line, you'll have a spot that doesn't get any paint in it because there's a fucking dog hair or there's a lint fucking fluff bunny from your pocket or something that got there and you're like, motherfucker, dude. Like,
Yeah.
so
That's
keep the
that's
shit in plastic
right
bag.
there, what you said is, like, the biggest contrast between, the sweet science of painting and all the other shit where it's metal shavings flying, sparks, fucking gorilla shit, and then painting, you gotta be a motherfucking one of them chimps that rolls around on roller skates and shit. You gotta be fucking, like, locked in on that stuff because you can't be covered in dog hair and soot and fucking grease and bullshit. Like, because if your fucking hands are all fucked up because you were just like wrenching on a transmission or something, and then you're just gonna touch your tank and fucking spray, dude. Like, it has to be clean, it has to be precise, and that's why people just go, "Fuck it, I'm sending it out. I'm not even
Hmm.
gonna try it. It's too hard."
But
Well, stop being a bitch and paint your own fucking bikes, guys.
you can do it. I do all of the fabrication and fucking oil changes and everything else that I do, all the bike building, whatever, normal tinkering shit in the garage side of my garage. And then my paint booth is literally just like a Reed's Ferry shed that's attached to the back of the garage. And I do all of those things in that same, there's only a sheet, like a literal bed sheet separating those two rooms. You can do it. It's a pain in the fucking balls, but you can do it. It's a lot
You
about
should do it.
flow, and we'll get into that. The equipment and the environment realistically are going to be the next couple things that we're getting into, but
Are we all
cleanliness is
is there
really
anything
on.
else that you wanted to do in this part 1 of paint, or
No, no, we'll pick up. I was going to talk a little bit about like actual application during the base coat, but we'll pick that up as a separate entity. So at this point, we're all the way up to clear coat. You literally should have, once you pull all your tape off, you should have a black tank with red flames and a gold pinstripe. And then clear coat that bitch and let it sit till next week. And then we'll
Next
go from
week, when
there.
we pick this series back up,
That's right.
part two. And by the way, I'm just going to reiterate, painting a motherfucking bike, dude, that's like 50% of the bike. And if you're not doing it yourself, then you're not building the whole bike. And big ups to all the painters, dude, because I've done it. I suck at it. I'm going to keep on trying, but that's the fucking point, guys. What are we here for? You here for the awards, for the glory? Or are you here to be able to build a fucking chopper? Well, guess what? Painting is part of building a chopper. So you should learn how to do it and up your motherfucking game.
I agree.
Okay? I don't know why I'm so angry right now.
Yeah. He's taking it really personally.
I don't know. You got my respect. But and it's different if you're a fucking garage builder versus a shop, obviously. If you're a shop and you're fucking building customers' bikes and stuff and they have to be perfect, you farm shit out, you know? But if you're building stuff and what your goal is to build a fucking be able to build choppers, you have to do it all. And if you it's okay to send it out every once in a while or whatever, but like why wouldn't you want that skill set? Imagine that. You don't have to go and send your fucking bike out and spend 3 grand for a decent paint job. Actually, I don't even know. What's like a fucking whole chopper paint job go for? Like
Depends.
a good one? We're talking thousands.
Thousands. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And before you scoff at that, go look at how expensive paint is. I mean, straight, there's gallons of clear coat that are $1,000 per gallon. Just for a gallon. And I mean, if you're painting cars, that ain't shit. You're using 2 gallons anyways. You know what I mean? That's just a fucking clear coat. So those of you out there who would otherwise send your shit out to a painter, please bear that in mind. Like, this shit is not cheap. This is a luxury. This is not cheap. That's why I learned how to paint, because I could never, still cannot absolutely even fathom paying somebody to paint my bike. Absolutely can't do it. I would rather, personally, I knew that I had the artistic kind of draw or whatever. I knew that I wanted to learn how to paint more than I wanted or would be able to start getting all of this fucking machinery and whatever else and doing. So like, I'm going to send out my lowers to get shaved on the panhead, but I'm going to paint the fuck out of this panhead. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's a trade-off that I was willing to make, kind of deal. And eventually I'll be shaving my own legs too, but
Yeah,
fuck,
it
I'm
all
sick.
depends on where you're at, but the
Yeah.
aspiration, what you should
Right.
aspire to is to do everything sack to crack by yourself. And dude, my boy here is a professional painter, and he would paint my bikes for free. He wouldn't ask me for anything. I don't know. I'm a low life.
Yeah.
I'm
I
still unemployed, by the way, guys. I'm building 2 bikes. I don't even have a fucking job. But we're gonna have to cut this one off. I knew that we weren't gonna be able to get through it all because, and again, guys, by the way, we've gotten all the way to paint, and now we have to do a two-parter. That tells you something. That's a big part of building a motherfucking bike, dude. So do it yourself, fuck it up, go through the frustration of fucking doing it. You went through the frustration of everything else and you're going to just skim over this part? Fucking pathetic. Anyways, thank you everybody for joining the live. I'm so glad we have mad good painters. We got painters in the chat
Yeah.
dropping some knowledge bombs. Thank you for all our Patreons. Guys, I'm just going to remind everybody real quick. We're doing some fundraising for the Idle Hand Show still, and we need money, okay? So go to the GoFundMe, drop a couple bucks in there, go and get in on the Muzzy fucking triptych. I'm going to have to let that rip, dude. It's actually not gotten a lot of traction. So please help out. We want to get this motherfucking shit locked down. I want to get that $10,000 prize. I want to be walking around with a suitcase handcuffed to my fucking wrist, dude, until July, filled with 10 grand. I'm going to go everywhere with it. It's not going to leave my side. But thank you all very much. Until next week. Get in the garage. Learn how to paint, bitch. Get in trouble. Have fun. And never stop chopping. Deadbeat Customs. Steve over at Deadbeat Customs is all about grassroots motorcycle riders who build and customize their bikes. When it comes to building a custom motorcycle, they carry the best brands available. Go visit their brick and mortar store in Tewksbury, Mass, or at deadbeatcustoms.com. Remember, enter code LOWLIFE at checkout to save some money. Stay Strong Co. Jean-Luc makes the most heavenly hot sauces in the world. The shits, and hotter than a Harley and a pepper patch, Low Life chopper sauce. Go to staystrongco.org today and grab yourself the holy trinity of hot sauces. Beck Built Fab. Dustin is the plug for excess chopper parts. Drum, disc brake, mid controls, hand shifters, foot clutch, modded worm gears, intakes, and more. He can do any fabrication, weld repair, upholstery, or maintenance job. Check him out at beckbuiltfab.com. Revenant Chop Co. Connor isn't about overpriced lifestyle merch. It's chop clothing made for the garage, for the blue-collar builder who'd rather spend his money on parts than trendy tees. It's not just another stack of black t-shirts either. He drops wild garage-born designs that stand out, gear that looks great, covered in grease, or on the side of the road. Check out revenantchoppers.com.